Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to take a little bit of a look at Machamp V and ask, what is going on with Machamp V? I'm talking about the special art here, right? Because most of the time, these special art cards honestly don't get that expensive. Now, sure, there are obvious exceptions. No, you're not getting the full art of Charizard, the special art of Charizard V, for a decent price. The market price is listed on TCG Player as about $170, and that's about right, because it's a Charizard. But then even stuff like Dialga V, you're talking it's like a $50 card. Wonderful! Mitsuhiro Arita artwork. It's Dialga, who's a very popular Pokemon. And yet, what do we find? $50 card. Charizard gets up to $170 purely on the basis of it being a Charizard. And I don't mind that. That makes perfect sense to me. But most of the other cards just don't. Like, I'm a big fan of the alternate art of the Beedrill V. That's a beautiful card. Yeah, it's like a $30 card. I adore the Sneasler V with a lovely Okacheke artwork. That is about a $40 card, which is slightly upsetting, but, you know, the artwork is so gosh darn good, I think I can forgive it. But, you know, Beedrill's a $30 card, Sneasel's a $40 card, Dialga's a $50 card. These are not terribly expensive. Charizard is an exception. That's fine. So what is going on with Machamp V? As I record this, the current market price over on TCG Player is listed at a frankly ridiculous $120 or $117 if you want to be a pedant, which I actually kind of do. Okay, but that must just be an aberration. No! If we go and look at what's happened to this card over the past 3 months, it starts off as kind of like a $50 card, climbs right up to $130, and even though it keeps coming down, it's not actually coming down all that much. Sure, it's dropped from like $130-ish to $120-ish, $115-ish, but that's still not exactly some giant drop. But Wassy, nobody's actually paying this, are they? Yes! Somehow they actually are. If we look at the last sold listings, let's look at all the ones we've seen from August so far. 114, 125, 113, 116, 110, 115, 110, 115, 125. That is what we've seen from all of the sold listings that have been happening in August over on TCG Player for the price of Machamp. And I don't understand. And it's not that I don't like Machamp. Machamp's cool. But Machamp isn't a Charizard or an Umbreon or something along those lines. Those cards are going to be hyper expensive. And that's okay. Because Pokemon like Charizard and Umbreon, they are different. And they are going to be way more expensive than your average Pokemon. And that makes absolute perfect sense. We understand it. Job's a good un. Move on with your life. Machamp is not in that category. It's just not. And it's not like it's some kind of hyper-playable card. Because firstly, it ain't. And secondly, we can look at something like Genesect V, which has a special art and is a hyper-playable card. It's like a $25 card. Somewhere in the region of a $25 card. That's what you're looking at for a special art of Genesect, bearing in mind Genesect is ridiculously hyper-playable. So it's not because it's playable, and it's not because Machamp is really that good or popular. So then we've got to ask the question, is this real? Is this actually a thing, or is this some kind of elaborate ruse? Is this Machamp actually a $120 card? Or are we all just being toyed with? Well, if we head on over to eBay, what we can do is we can head on over there and we can see the sold listings. And if we stick on US eBay for a moment, it's pretty much the same question or the same thing. Sure, it's gone down a tiny bit. There's a $94 listing. Yay! But there's also one that, or sold, but there's also one that sold for 130 and one that sold for best offer accepted but was listed at 135. People are paying this. And it is a little bit better, but it's not exactly phenomenal. We're still talking about a card that is around about $120-ish card with an occasional, yay, I got it a little bit cheaper. And if we go over onto UK eBay, I mean, it looks a little bit better because it's generally selling for about £80. That's roughly, and if you see the free listings on the screen there, it's somewhere in the region of about 80 quid, roughly. But you know what? 80 quid is $96. And it's still better, but it's not exactly hyper cheap. And here's the thing. Here's how I know something weird is going on with Machamp. Because we get the same cards in Japan as we get over here. So if we've got a card that is hyper popular, we should be seeing roughly the same thing over in Japan as we see over here. So let's take Charizard as a lovely example. That's the one where the price really was going a little bit silly. And if we go on to Macari, which is better to use than eBay for looking up Japanese prices, and we look at the price of that card, there are a bunch of listings, all of which are somewhere in the region of about 12,000 yen. Again, it's not perfect, but about 12,000 yen. That's roughly what we're looking at here. And 12,000 yen is about $90. Which, yes, you will notice is actually a fair bit cheaper than the US price, but compared to other cards, yeah, this is about right. It's still on the more expensive line. But if we go and have a look at Machamp, like, it's not even close. Here are just literally the top two listings are 3,000 yen. The top two listings for that card in Japanese over on Macari, which is the right place to look, are coming in at about 3,000 yen. That's $22. Sure, Charizard is cheaper in Japan than it is over here, but it's still far and above the other cards. Machamp is on the cheaper end over in Japan in terms of the special arts, and yet over here it's ridiculously expensive. No, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and that means something's going on. I mean, if you want another comparison, remember Dialga was about a $50 card over here, and if we go and have a look, it's about 7,500 yen over in Japan, which brings it in as a $55 card. So about in line with what we would expect. Charizard's a bit cheaper than we'd expect, but it's still very much on the higher end of special arts, which is exactly what we would think. And everything is roughly in line with what we're expecting until you get to Machamp, where in Japan it is priced like a standard special art. Your ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill special art card over in Japan, about 3,000 yen is right. But then we come down to Machamp in the US, and it's crazy money. And I think the important thing here is that it doesn't make sense. I can often look at these and go, right, well, this card is particularly expensive because it's playable. There's a reason why Arceus V-Star is one of the most expensive V-Stars. There's a reason why Palkia V-Star is way more expensive than your average V-Star. And in both situations, it's because those cards are hyper-playable. That makes sense. I can tell you that Charizard as a special art is way more expensive than your average special art because it's Charizard. Machamp makes no sense. But I can't end the video just going, Machamp makes no sense, tune in next time. So I suppose I have to give you some kind of explanation. And the explanation I can give you is this. Somebody did this. There was a point where somebody went, let's push the price up. Whether they did it deliberately or accidentally, I don't know. But at some point, somebody started listing this way higher than they should be, and somebody else started buying it. And maybe that was done deliberately. I'm not 100% sure. But my point here is that we then got to a point where it just kept going. So now we're in this weird situation where the reason Machamp is expensive is because Machamp is expensive. Machamp should be a $30 card. But nobody's going to sell it for $30 when all of the recent sold listings are listing it for $120. So now everyone listed at $120. And the people that want to buy this card should be paying about $30. But because it's listed at 120 and everyone's listing it for 120 and all the sold listings are showing 120, everyone's just like, oh, it's a $120 card, let's pay 120. And it doesn't make any sense. But at some point, whether deliberately or accidentally, somebody started selling it for 120, somebody bought it for 120, and now it's a $120 card. It is not an artist which is popular above all of the others. This is not like So-So, who is one of the most popular artists. Think the Gengar Special Art, which is expensive partly because it's Gengar and partly because it's So-So. It's one of the most popular artists in the game. Same thing with Mitsuhiro Arita. That's always going to push the Dialga up a little bit because it's a Mitsuhiro Arita artwork. Sometimes an artist can push the price up, but that hasn't happened here. Sometimes the Pokemon can push the price up, but Machamp's not at that level. Sometimes the playability can push the price up, but Machamp is not a good card. I've given you the best explanation I can, and I'm well aware it's not a great explanation. And all I can say to you, lovely ladies and gentlemen, is, I'm sorry, that's the best I can do. This isn't a $120 card. But apparently it's a $120 card. Sorry about that. But now it's time to hear from you guys. Tell me what you think about this. Have you bought it? Have you sold it? Can you explain the ridiculous price? Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk Pokemon and card games and all kinds of other fun stuff, like Pokemon card games. And do please consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get weekly bonus pods pretty much, where I talk about all kinds of fun things that you want me to talk about. I answer questions. And I do give shout outs to people like the lovely Arnoldo Tafoya, who is one of our supporters over there. And Arnoldo Tafoya is a very lovely person. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.